Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And my name is Cholpon. I specialize in pensions on divorce. Firstly, let me go through the housekeeping. The webinar will last 30 minutes. And if you have any questions, please type in the box at the bottom of the screen and we'll try to answer them at the end of the webinar. So we have got Mark Leahy, who was our special guest a few months ago with Tony. They had a lot of positive feedback and we decided to invite him back. So topic for today will be hypnosis and surviving divorce process. And of course, at the end, we decided to brighten it up and to do a little live exercise for you guys. So please stay tuned. Okay then, let's get started. Good morning, Mark. Welcome back.
Good morning, Cholpon, and your subscribers as well. It's a pleasure to be back, and thanks very much for inviting me back. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you back, Mark. And we would like to get started. Today we will be discussing two case studies where Mark helped after divorce. So before we get started with those case studies, Mark would like to do some intro statistics. So over to you, Mark.
Sure, thanks, Cholpon. Let me just see if I can move my slides on.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to put things in a little bit of context first. And what's interesting is that it's not all bad news. The divorce rate is actually coming down in England and Wales. In fact, the Office for National Statistics shows that the looking at the rates between 1950, when records began, to 2018, which is what the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, shows, the current divorce rate, or in 2018 at least, is 7.5 per 1,000 of the married population. So 7.5 per 1,000 of the married population divorced in 2018. Now that figure actually came down from the previous year when it was 8.4 per 1,000 of the married population. So it's actually coming down, so that's good news. Interestingly, divorcing couples are married for an average of 12.5 years. So make of that what you will. But again, if I look back at the figures from 1950 to, I say to date, but it's to 2018, the highest rate, the year of the highest rate of divorces was, if you want to guess, I'll give you a couple of seconds, but I'll tell you, it was actually 1993. So in 1993, the rate was 14.3 per 1,000 of the married population, compared to 2018, which I said was 7.5. The year for the lowest rate since 1950 was actually 1958, when there were just 1.9 per 1,000 divorces of the married population. So therefore, it increased almost sevenfold from 1950 to 1993, which is interesting. What's also interesting is that from 2012, apart from a slight blip in one of the years, from 2012, the rate has come down year on year to where we are now, or in 2018, as I mentioned, which was 7.5. So it's actually coming down steadily from 2012. So I don't know what people are doing better or doing right to have the divorce rate come down, but that's a little bit of good news. Of course, it will be interesting to see how those figures have changed, if indeed they've changed, after the pandemic, because we know that there are difficulties, and that's what we're talking about today. So if I move on to the first case study, and of course, I've changed the names here and a few of the details for privacy and for confidentiality, of course. So I'm going to talk about John. Of course, that's not his real name, but that's what we're going to call him. John is a 65-year-old male. He recently retired and divorced about 4 years ago. And he was actually referred to me by his consultant dermatologist. John was presenting with skin problems, folliculitis, one of them, but also rashes and various other ailments, skin disorders. And his dermatologist felt that whilst she could treat the skin disorders, it would have limited effect because there was a number of underlying issues related to anxiety, which he subsequently related to his divorce and what he went through. John had 3 children, has 3 children, all grown up. They're all well educated. They all had a private education and are in professional roles, and he's very proud of that. But we looked at a number of the issues he was presenting with, not his skin complaints, but certainly the anxiety, which was triggered by guilt about his past, things he'd done, things he'd not done, fear of being alone, fear of what the future might hold, and failure. He felt that he wasn't good enough, he hadn't been good enough. And he also felt anger towards himself about his behavior, but also anger towards his ex-wife as well. So in therapy, we focused on his self-esteem and confidence issues, and we looked at rebuilding that. And using techniques from acceptance and commitment therapy, what's called ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, underpinned with hypnosis and hypnotherapy, we managed to help John to let go of the guilt and the anger that was consuming him. And this was the acceptance element of the therapy. And we managed to get him to shift his focus from what had happened in the past to the future. So over a course of just 4 sessions, in fact, John's anxiety reduced to the extent that he had actually revived old hobbies that he had, such as art and photography. And he'd managed also a reconciliation with one of his daughters whom he'd fallen out with as a result of the marriage breakup. And he was looking forward to his retirement as well. Interestingly, although for me, unsurprisingly, his folliculitis, which was one of his skin complaints, it was helped indirectly in that once his anxiety reduced, he lost the urge to scratch and aggravate his skin condition.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent, Mark. It just goes to show that a few tweaks like you did on John helped him enormously, and he feels appreciated and he feels valued. And as a consequence, it's not just psychologically, but also helped his skin condition. And it's just great. Mark, you were able to help John.
Yeah, although I should say it's the client that does all the work here, I have to say. You know, hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and any therapy indeed, is not a magic bullet. So the client has to engage, and John worked hard, and he saw the results. So well done, John.
Excellent, excellent. Shall we move to the second case study?
Sure.
Jane, and tell us what was the issue, and how did it help, and how is Jane today?
Sure. So Jane, again, not her real name. Jane is a 36-year-old female, a school teacher.
Mark?
Her husband, yeah.
Apologies. Would you like to move your slide to Jane?
Yes, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
That should be coming up. Jane, where are you? You're not seeing her yet, are you?
Yeah, if you just click your next slide, it should.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. It was a bit slow, sorry. So yes, Jane, as I mentioned, was a 36-year-old school teacher. Unfortunately, she split up with her husband. He, in fact, left her when she was pregnant with their 3rd child. She already had 2 children, a boy and a girl, aged 2 and 4. And Jane came to me presenting with symptoms, with emotions, including guilt, fear, again, fear for the future, how she was going to cope, particularly with bringing up 3 children. And she felt a failure. And she also felt anger. So very similar emotions to those which John experienced as well. Moreover, with Jane, she felt abandoned. She felt that she wasn't good enough. And these were the overriding feelings of abandonment and just not being good enough. She felt guilty. She felt guilty about letting her children down, having split from their father, her husband. And again, anger towards her spouse or her ex-spouse. Physically, she was very fit, very well and healthy, so she had no physical ailments. Her overriding issue, as I say, was one of feeling abandoned and just not being able to trust anyone again. So what we did was we worked on building Jane's resilience, and of course we talked a lot about resilience in the last webinar back in July. And we helped Jane to shift her mindset from one of being mistrusting to one of openness and possibility. We used hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and we also used ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, again, as we did with John, to get Jane to a point where she could accept what had happened and look forward to the future positively. We also did some inner child work with Jane as well. And the concept of the inner child is very much that the inner child exists, if you like, as the childlike aspect within your unconscious mind, within one's unconscious mind. And it reflects the child that we once were in both our positive and our negative aspects. So the understanding or the belief is that our unmet needs and suppressed childhood emotions, as well as our childlike innocence, our, if you like, natural enthusiasm and creativity are all waiting within us, if you like, untapped. So we did a lot of work around the inner child, and that helped Jane as well. Jane had 5 sessions, after which she felt that she was able to access her inner resources to support her in moving forward. So that worked very well. And as I say, we used hypnosis, hypnotherapy, together with acceptance and commitment therapy, but also inner child work with Jane.
And how is Jane now? Do you keep in touch with her? And how are the children?
Well, I don't keep in touch with her. I don't tend to keep in touch with clients. They come back to see me from time to time if they feel they want a bit of a top up or a bit of a boost, or just because they enjoy the relaxing experience of hypnosis. So I haven't seen Jane, but certainly I was in touch with her shortly after as a follow-up, shortly after she completed her 5 sessions, and she was a lot happier, she was a lot more comfortable, and importantly a lot more confident, and her self-esteem had been rebuilt as well, so she was happy.
Excellent, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing those wonderful stories, and please remind you that these are the real stories. We just changed their names for the purposes of data sharing, and we're gonna be moving to our next section, which is about new norm, how people are coping while they're going through divorce and working from home, looking after the children, all those things. How does it happen in real world, and what can be done to improve the situation, Mark?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, I think being stuck at home with people during lockdown at the best of times is challenging. Certainly for those people who are going through a relationship breakup or a divorce, there are some specific additional challenges, and it's serious. It's extremely difficult for these people. What we see is that petitioning for divorce is really only the start of what may be a very long and complex journey. Negotiating over finances and family arrangements are becoming ever more complex. And that's in part, it would appear, because there's more at stake, particularly for middle-aged couples who have accrued more assets or more wealth, if you like. I saw also from the Office for National Statistics that, in fact, by 2014, half of the households in England and Wales had a total wealth of just under quarter of a million pounds. So again, as people get older, and then if and when they then split, it becomes a lot more complex. So what's compounded the problem now is that the current financial uncertainty is making decision making very difficult. So I am seeing couples still come to me, not couples, but individuals who are going through relationship breakdowns, and they're looking for support with their own ability, if you like, to cope. And as I say, the financial uncertainty is making things particularly difficult. I think in addition to that, so those are sort of practical things, but I think in addition to that, there are other serious concerns and challenges around childcare as well, and how that works. One of the I think pieces of advice that we can give, or one of the things we can identify that might be a good thing to do, is to divide up your space at home. So if you can, then agree who's going to be where in your home, especially where your own space is concerned. So knowing that you have somewhere quiet to go where you can be undisturbed certainly helps. And also, communication is absolutely key. The potential damage to children during the divorce process, again, particularly during the pandemic, where we're sort of thrown together, is huge. I mean, it really cannot be underestimated. So communication is absolutely key. One thing I did read is that, and we're not all in this position, but Bruce Willis and Demi Moore, who divorced some 20 years ago, actually got together during lockdown and lived together with their, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 now adult children. So they sort of managed to get together and show that solidarity. Now that's quite unique, and as I say, we're not everyone's not in that position. But it is, the message there is that it is a time where one has to put personal differences to one side for the sake of the children, and keeping the disagreements and the arguments away from the children is absolutely critical. Avoid weaponizing, if you like. That's a key thing that should be avoided.
Yeah, it just goes to show that separation is already challenging times for both parties and the children in normal times, never mind during pandemic. And also people are being held at home at all times to work, to look after the children, plus to do their education. Even normal families had to face a lot of challenges. Therefore, I thought it was very important for couples who are going through separation during these difficult times. It's even more difficult because when they make financial decisions, it will be all based on fear, based on uncertainty, because people actually don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, what will be the next chapter in their life in terms of job, in terms of future, how they're going to handle their finances, and therefore there is a need for couples who are facing those challenges to seek professional advice, like yourself, for example, and just to accept that there is a need to sort this out for us and for the children, and therefore engaging other professionals in those situations is a key thing. And we would definitely have those conversations with couples and identify those needs to be able to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. You're quite right, and this is uncharted territory for everybody globally. Again, those people who are going through a relationship breakdown, it's particularly difficult, and you know, it's those difficulties and challenges really cannot be or should not be underestimated. But again, the key thing is communication and keeping the children away from the conflict as best people can. Another thing is, you know, there is a tendency for a lot of people to turn to perhaps less healthy support mechanisms. Alcohol is one of them. So I would also suggest avoid excessive drinking. I mean, it's easy to say, and it's trite to say, you know, don't be abusive to your partner and don't take abuse from your partner. It's a very real threat. You know, the facts are that domestic abuse happens much less when people avoid drinking. So, you know, if your family has, not yours, Cholpon, but if one's family has alcohol issues, then you know now is a good time to seek help and to cut down. And there's lots of support out there for people who are struggling in that respect as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Mark, because it's easy for third parties to say, oh, you have to think about children's well-being, you have to be sensible, you have to decide on the terms how you're going to survive for the next few months until divorce is finalized. But in reality, when emotions are high, people are uncontrollable. They can't control the situation, and therefore they fall to drinking habits or eating habits, and probably they don't even realize they are doing it, only to cause more trouble. Therefore, to recognize those areas and taking actions is a key, and hopefully they will have people around them who can actually indicate those issues and address them accordingly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would totally agree on the fact that alcoholism can be quite challenging, and once you are hooked, it will be difficult to get rid of it, because it becomes a part of your habit. Just like you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you get ready, you do a bit of exercise, that becomes part of your good habits. And therefore it's important to develop those habits so they become your second nature to deal with all the challenges we have in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's probably worth remembering, well, you know, we don't decide on our future. We actually decide on our habits, and our habits decide our future.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that moment of truth is here, Mark, and I'm super excited to be one of your attendees for your life exercise, and sharing with my friends and families that this is not going to be a boring webinar, and I'm really excited to be part of it, to experience what hypnosis look like in real life, live streaming. So over to you, Mark.
Sure. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm just trying to get my slides to move on. Me and technology were never mixed.
We'll, don't worry, Mark, we'll try our best.
Anyway, so can you hear me okay, Cholpon?
I can hear you, Mark, and I can see your slide. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So this is a fun exercise. It will only take a few minutes, and it's really about suggestion and imagination. And I want to demonstrate to you the power of our imagination and also the power of suggestion as well. So I'm going to invite you all to close your eyes. So just feel free to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths to start with. That's good. A few good deep breaths. And just relax. That's good. Now, I'm inviting you to imagine, if you will, that you're in a kitchen. It can be any kitchen, maybe your own kitchen at home, or even an imaginary kitchen. Maybe it's the kitchen of your dreams. So take a look around. You see the cooker, the sink, the draining board. Look at the floor. Perhaps it's tiled. Maybe it's a beautiful and natural flagstone floor. Maybe there's a table and chairs or an island. It's up to you. It's your kitchen and it's your imagination. And I want you now to imagine that on one of the work surfaces, there's a fruit bowl, a large fruit bowl, and it's full. I want you to see in the bowl apples, oranges and bananas, maybe grapes. It's a large bowl, and perhaps you can smell the fruity fragrance that fills the air. See the fruit filling the bowl, and maybe the grapes are hanging over the edges. And on the top is a large, ripe lemon. See it now. Look at its unique shape. See the dimples on its skin. Its unmistakable colour, lemon yellow. Now pick it up and feel its texture. Perhaps you can feel the dimples. Hold it to your nose and take a deep breath. Smell that unmistakable citrus smell, that refreshing lemony zest. And next to the bowl is a chopping board and a sharp chef's knife. And I want you to place the lemon on the chopping board and carefully pick up the knife by its handle. Go ahead. And now slice the lemon in half carefully. You can see the juice squirt out over the chopping board and perhaps some squirting out sideways. You can smell the citrus fruit. Good. Now put the knife down and pick up half the lemon. I want you to tilt back your head and hold the lemon just over your mouth and squeeze the lemon. The juice squirts and runs into your mouth, some over your lips. Your salivary glands are working overtime as the bitter juice runs onto your tongue. It's sour, tart and acidic. The sharp, tangy, bitter juice cascades like a waterfall to the back of your mouth as you purse your lips. Right, open your eyes. Open your eyes. Excellent. So I don't know what you experience. Everyone will have experienced something slightly different, but I do this exercise to show people that their imagination can invoke an automatic unconscious response. So your body prepares you for lemon juice being squirted into your mouth, even though you know there isn't actually a lemon there. And this really shows the power of our imagination and how purely by suggesting something, the mind and the body reacts, because some of you will have experienced for certain a physical reaction as you could almost taste the acidic juice of the lemon. And as I say, this shows the power of suggestion and imagination as well. And also it shows how imagination can be guided by suggestion into triggering a physical and autonomic response. And this is a technique that is used in other ways in hypnosis and hypnotherapy.
Yes, Mark, I thoroughly enjoyed this life exercise, and I felt that lemon juice and all that texture when you feel the lemon, the smell of citrus, and I think that's fantastic exercise, Mark. Thank you so much for this experience, and I'm sure it's very powerful, and our imagination take us wherever we want to be in life. And your suggested exercise just proves that this is possible, and anything is possible in this life. While we are alive, we can see, we can feel, we can experience those emotions. Everything is in our hand, and we are the one who can decide how we're going to live this life, and what we want to do in life. So I would
absolutely agree.
Yeah, I would take this opportunity to thank you for coming back to us, Mark. It has been pleasure having you, and thank you for sharing with your life cases for divorce situations, and hopefully we'll see you soon, Mark.
Thanks very much, Cholpon. It's been a pleasure as always. And remember, just one thing, thoughts become things, so choose the good ones.
Yeah, definitely. Thought becomes things is Mark's quote for today. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who attended our webinar, and wishing you an amazing day. Go out and do what you think you should be doing in terms of pursuing your passion and your dreams. Thank you, everyone, again. Thank you so much.